Hey, what is going on, guys? In this video today, we're going to be going over all the Fortnite phasing techniques / exploits that you need to know. If you've played or watched Fortnite at all within the last few months, you probably know how important the act of phasing into boxes has become even at the highest level of competitive play. Last weekend I was watching Wavy Jacob dominate the NA West solo FNCS, and his entire game plan pretty much was to weaken the enemy, quickly phase into his box, and then barrel stuff him with either a shotgun or SMG. Now, the most obvious reason why phasing has become so popular is due to the fact that there are no traps in the game, but the other reason is because phasing seems to be much less ping dependent than something like wall replacing. Now, some people will even claim that there are certain phasing exploits that work every time no matter what your ping is, and even though I don't think that's entirely true, if you're a high ping player, phasing is probably your best bet when it comes to killing someone boxed up. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so the first phasing technique is the good old reliable jump pickaxe phase. This is definitely nothing new, it's been a popular technique for a while, and you've probably seen it a million times before because it's very simple to execute. All you have to do is make the wall weak enough to be destroyed by one pickaxe, which is 75 health or under, then you jump forward towards the wall, and as you reach the apex of your jump, you swing your pickaxe again to destroy it. Due to the slight delay between walls being placed with turbo building, if you time it correctly, you should be able to sort of glitch through the wall and get into the enemy's box. So I already mentioned that the main positive of this is simplicity due to the fact that there's no setup required, but the main negative of this method is that it works much less frequently than a lot of alternatives. Even on very low ping, you'll probably have to do this 2 to 3 times before you actually get in. So it's definitely a nice option, but I also think there are multiple better alternatives out there. Speaking of better alternatives, the next phasing exploit is a much better version, at least in my opinion, of what I just showed you. It's the same general principle of jumping and pickaxing the wall, but this time you place a ramp behind your back while doing so. This option is much more likely to work, and I believe it's because the ramp basically limits the height of your jump, which makes it quicker overall, and therefore you're more likely to get past the wall that your enemy's turbo building. I mentioned that even as a low ping player, when I do this same phase exploit without the ramp, it usually takes 2 to 3 tries to work, but when I place the ramp, I'll get in on my first try more often than I don't, which is just insane. So the positives of this are it's got a super minimal setup, it's easy to do, and it's super glitchy how effective it is. Now the negatives are it's become so common that people are starting to predict it when they see that you put the ramp, and also the negative of both jump pickaxe methods is that once you're in the box, you'll need to switch to a weapon, which takes a little bit of time. So the third phasing method is another similar and simple one that improves on the main weaknesses of the jump pickaxe methods. You still want to place the ramp down on the front wall, but this time instead of jumping and pickaxing, you want to jump while shooting a fully auto weapon like an AR or SMG. This requires you to do a little more work in terms of making the wall weak, but if you can get the timing down and phase successfully through, now you're holding an actual weapon instead of a pickaxe, and you can just barrel stuff your enemy with ease. And I feel like sometimes it works even if you do it in a super bootleg way. I'll get through sometimes by just kind of spraying and jumping into the wall without worrying too much about if I'm even timing it correctly. I'll actually use this method fairly frequently when I know the enemy's really weak and I want to pressure his wall with a fully auto weapon so I know he isn't going to heal up or get away. So those are the 3 most basic phase methods. Now let's move into the more intermediate ones. The first intermediate phasing method involves placing a floor on the ground and then editing away every square except for the top right corner one. Then it's as simple as putting your body next to the railing connected to the front wall and then holding your thumbstick forward and a little to the left while destroying the wall. So this one requires a tad bit more setup than the basic ones, but definitely not not by much. And honestly, out of all the phasing methods that I tested, this one easily had one of the highest success rates. I don't know the exact reasoning, but something about pushing your body against that railing glitches out the hitbox of your character, and it enabled me to phase through the turbo build wall pretty much every single time I tested it. The next phasing exploit is very similar to the last one, but some people like this option better, so I thought why not include it. It's officially known as the CRR Classic, and it starts the same way with placing a floor on the ground. But this time, instead of editing 3 squares, you only edit the top right and bottom left squares. Once you've done that, you position your body as far into the corner against the edited structure as possible, hold your thumbstick forward and maybe a tad bit to the right, and then destroy the wall. It's pretty much the same deal as the last one. It exploits some kind of hitbox issue involving your player and that edited structure, and it results in you phasing through the turbo build wall very consistently. Another similar phasing exploit to those last 2 intermediate ones involves a bit of a different setup. You place a sideways wall on the left side of the wall that you're trying to phase through, then you edit a door on the left side of the wall you placed and open it. From there, it's the same deal as it was with the floor phases. You put your body against the door while moving forward, and then you break the wall. The setup here is probably a little bit too slow for my liking, and I personally prefer the floor phases better, but maybe you disagree and would rather use this one. The final intermediate level trick is one that you can use when you have an RPG. I believe Cypher PK and some other people have showcased this before, so it's nothing new, but I thought why not include it in here since I'm showing all the viable phasing methods. The setup for this is relatively simple. All you need to do is get on top of the enemies one by one and place 2 walls in front of you. Then once you've done that, line up your shot so that it shoots just barely above the cone and hits as close to in between the 2 walls as possible, and if done correctly, you'll drop right into the enemy's box even if they're holding turbo build on the roof. So the obvious negatives here are that you need an RPG for this to work, the setup's a little in-depth, and there's always the slight chance that you RPG yourself, but I have seen pros like Mr. Savage do this before, so it definitely is viable. Now we move on to a phase method that was recently popularized by Booga and Clicks. This is probably the hardest one in the entire video to execute consistently, but it's also arguably the most effective if you can do it correctly. So what you want to do first is make sure that the wall you want to phase through is one-shottable by a shotgun. For the pumps, that'll be anything under about 45 health, and for the tacs, it'll be anything under 50. Once you have the wall one-shot, you want to sprint forward, look slightly down while doing so, and right as your body's about to hit the wall, shoot it with your shotgun. Like I said, the timing needs to be very precise, but if you can do it correctly, when you phase into the box, you're already going to have your shotgun out while the enemy is still going to be holding his building menu. If that's a fight you can't win, then I don't really know what to tell you. Also, the other positive here is that there's really no building setup required, so your opponent will have no clue what you're doing before you actually do it. So that covers all the different phasing methods that I wanted to showcase, and I know some of you guys are probably wondering at this point, well, should I really take the time and learn all 8 or whatever amount of these different phasing methods you showed? And my answer to that would be absolutely not. That would be a pretty unnecessary use of time that could definitely be better spent elsewhere. Most good or even pro level players will have about 3 to 4 different phasing methods in their toolkit that they use fairly frequently depending on the situation. The reason I included roughly double that amount of exploits in this video is because I wanted to show you guys all the different options that I've seen used by good players before. So then out of the 8 different ones that I showed, you can pick your 3 to 4 favorite, hopefully practice them a little so you can get the timing down perfectly, and then actually bring them into real game situations and use them when needed. My personal favorites, in case you care, are the 2 jump phases with the wall at your back. I think the 2 floor edit phases are really good, especially for high ping players, even though you really only need to know one of them. And then recently, I've been trying to get the timing of the Booga/Clicks phase down because that one's really nasty if you can get it right. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you watched the entire thing, be sure to let me know with a comment down in the comment section below. Are you someone that uses phasing exploits a lot when you play Fortnite? And if so, which specific exploit do you use the most? Be sure to leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, turn on post notifications, do whatever the heck you want, and I will catch you guys next time.